Jerusalem is on the eastern edge of the Roman Empire, a vast network of roads and trade routes. One of the keys to mankind's progress, mass communication. Now, an idea born in the Middle East can spread around the Roman world. 500,000 people are in Jerusalem for Passover, the Jewish festival celebrating the Exodus from Egypt. And among them, followers of Jesus. They believe he is the Messiah. But his teachings threaten the peace. For that, he will be crucified. Rome's special punishment for pirates, slaves, and enemies of the state.
Thousands of people died this way, but we remember one man. We remember one death as if it was the only one. Because this one death changed every part, every portion, every corner of the earth.
In the crowd, a bystander, Simon from Cyrene, a colony in North Africa.
Simon of Cyrene was a guy who just happened to be in Jerusalem. Here was this procession going by him. There was a man carrying a cross, and he was surrounded by Roman soldiers. And hey, you come over here and carry this guy's cross. And so we've got a common guy on the street who's now involved in this pivotal moment in history.
It can take 3 days to die on a cross. Blood loss, shock, dehydration, suffocation. Crucifixions are so common, the Romans barely register Jesus' death.
This non-event, this thing that nobody noticed except his friends and family, turned out to have the power to transform the entire Roman Empire and the course of human history more profoundly than any other single event over the past 2,000 years.
The followers of Jesus will retell his story and use the power of the empire to spread his message. "1,400 miles from Jerusalem, the imperial capital, Rome. The largest city on Earth. Population 1 million. It's 2.5 times more densely populated than modern Manhattan. But 18 years after the crucifixion, a series of droughts creates a food shortage. Rome needs 200,000 tons of grain each year, or its people will starve. One in 5 are already on welfare.
The mayor of New York City, the mayor of Washington, D.C., faces many of the same problems that the Roman emperors did in managing the most important city of the ancient world.
Rome's ruler, Emperor Claudius. Disabled, insecure, and the most powerful man in the Western world.
All emperors had to please the populace and bring home the bacon, so to speak. But Claudius had to try harder than other rulers to legitimize his rule.
As emperor, Claudius is regarded as a god. But he still needs the support of his people to stay in power. He orders handouts for the poor. But there's not enough bread to go around.
Riots were a part of life in Rome. It was a way that the people had of getting messages across to their ruler, and the ruler ignored that at their peril.
The previous emperor, Caligula, was assassinated. Claudius could be next. The best way for an emperor to win over the public? Build. Eight miles from the city, one of the largest engineering projects in the empire. A mighty aqueduct. To carry water to the city, Roman engineers carve a route through 45 miles of countryside.
They tunneled through mountains. They bridged across valleys. They built these vast structures across huge amounts of space without dynamite, without any kind of modern tools. And yet they're so well built that 1,500 years after the end of civilization, those structures are still standing.
The aqueduct is powered by gravity. It needs to drop 1 foot every 300. Too steep, and the water will overflow. Too shallow, it'll run dry. Precision engineering. The secret to Roman construction. A revolutionary new building material. Easy to mold. It sets rock hard. Concrete.
People talk about the Bronze Age and the Iron Age. But in many ways, ever since the Romans, we've been living in the concrete age.
The key ingredient of Roman concrete is volcanic ash. And Rome is surrounded by 50 volcanoes. Today, 2/3 of mankind live in buildings made of concrete. The aqueduct cost the equivalent of $8.75 billion. 10 times more than the Hoover Dam.
You have to imagine people coming into Rome, getting some of their first impressions about this, the center of empire from this massive engineering project. It was advertising Rome's power.
So everyone knows who built this wondrous monument. The emperor names it after himself. Aqua Claudia, the waters of Claudius. It takes 14 years to build. 400,000 blocks of stone. 6 million cubic feet of concrete. Rome's aqueducts will deliver 250 million gallons of water a day. Enough for 1,300 fountains, 900 baths, and 144 public toilets. Rome is the most advanced city in the world. Apartment blocks 6 stories high, each with up to 380 residents. Under the roads, a sewage system helps sweep away 55 tons of waste a day. There's a police force, a fire brigade, a postal service, 30 libraries, 3 theaters, and 80 temples. Rome, the world's first megacity. Today, for the first time in history, over half of us live in cities. Across the world, there are 21 cities with a population above 10 million. Based on the blueprint pioneered by Rome 2,000 years ago. But Rome is more than a city. It's an empire. It'll spread its civilization across Europe and beyond. And it will do it by conquest. '61 AD. An amphibious force 800 miles from Rome. Mankind spread civilization through conquest. The Romans are heading for Europe's northwest frontier. In command, General Suetonius Paulinus. Ruthless, determined, he's Rome's enforcer. Having crushed an uprising in North Africa, his orders are to do the same in Britain. For 20 years, Britons have waged a guerrilla war against Roman occupation. Expert riders, fierce warriors. They collect the heads of their enemies. Leading the resistance, a mystical sect of priests. The Druids. They worship the sun, the moon, and the forests. Druid means man of oak. Roman writers regard them as barbarians and claim they practice human sacrifice.
The altars were heaped with hideous offerings, and every tree was sprinkled with human gore.
Rome has its eyes on Britain's natural riches, its precious metals. Deep underground, lead, vital for aqueducts. Iron, copper, and tin for tools and weapons. And silver to bankroll Roman armies.
Rome's economic model was built on expanding the empire. To do that, you need to have a perpetual war machine that's capable of conquest after conquest.
Up to 50% of Rome's spending goes on the military. More than double the proportion the US government spends today. Mankind's first full-time professional army. Each soldier is armed with a gladius, a short sword made from steel, designed for close-quarter combat. A pilum, a heavyweight javelin, 7 feet long with a lethal metal spike. And a shield, used in defense and attack. As Paulinus's men make contact with the Britons, the writer Tacitus describes the scene.
The Druids lifted their hands to the heavens, invoking the gods and pouring forth horrible curses. Our troops were in awe at such a spectacle.
But Paulinus has been a commander for 20 years. He knows he has the firepower to destroy the rebels.
You can have passion, you can have guts, but if you run up against a military might like Rome, that passion wanes quickly, those guts fade to fear, and the next thing you know, you're a conquered people.
The battle tactics of the Roman army were rehearsed and drilled and rehearsed and drilled to a fault, so that in the chaos and distraction of battle, everyone did their job. They knew what to do.
By the time Paulinus is finished in Britain, his men kill as many as 80,000 people. The rebel stronghold destroyed. The Druids annihilated. Once a land is conquered, the first priority, a network of roads.
The Roman soldier was a versatile soldier. He wasn't just a fighting machine, he was an engineer, a road builder, a bridge builder. This meant that you could have rapid deployment of the Roman army.
The Roman road, 23 feet across, wide enough for an army to march 6 abreast. Roman roads connect Roman towns, and conquered people become citizens of the empire. Paris, London, Barcelona, laid out to the same design. Baths, temples, plazas, and an arena, home to one of Rome's most popular exports, the games.
Gladiatorial games were mass entertainment. It's the reality TV of the ancient world.
There are 400 arenas across the empire. The largest hold 50,000 people. Admission to the games is free. Everyone can enjoy the benefits of Roman civilization. Most gladiators are slaves, forced to fight. But others are free men, looking for fame and glory. Gladiator sweat is collected, bottled, and sold as an aphrodisiac.
Gladiator was like a rock star. They had fans. You can even see in their graffiti love notes from women to their favorite gladiators.
A top gladiator can earn the equivalent of $200,000 a fight. But most die before they turn 23. Rome is at the height of its power. Its empire dominates Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. A fifth of mankind is under Roman rule. Trade booms, but also the flow of ideas. Ideas that'll transform the future of mankind. Damascus, Syria, 4 years after the crucifixion, a man is on the run, Paul. Preacher, troublemaker, and the most important convert in the story of Christianity. Before his conversion on the road to Damascus, he persecuted Christians. But now, he will turn an insignificant sect into a world religion. Today, he is known as Saint Paul.
He was a passionate guy. He was a guy with grit. He really believed in his God. He really believed in his gospel. Really believed in, that Christ was the only way.
For spreading the message that Christ is the Messiah, Paul is a wanted man. To Jewish leaders, he's a heretic. To the Romans, a rabble-rouser. If caught, he'll be executed. Damascus is a walled city. Every gate is heavily guarded. Paul's escape route? Over the walls. For 20 years, Paul travels the Roman Empire, contacting other believers, spreading a message of hope.
He's telling people Christianity creates a salvation for anyone. If you have a slave who's being abused by his master, who has a horrible life, in the next life, his master will get what he deserves, and the slave, if he's a good man who accepts Jesus Christ as his Lord and Savior, will get what he deserves.
Paul writes letters to fellow Christians around the empire. Romans, Thessalonians, and Corinthians. They make up nearly half of the New Testament.
There is no longer Jew or Greek, slave or free, male or female, for all of you are one in Jesus Christ. We who are many are one body in Christ. Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful. It is not arrogant or rude.
Those letters become very much like the Twitter tweets that we see during the Arab Spring. This was the communication of the time, and it was very much under the Roman radar.
When I was a child, I talked like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned as a child.
Paul's letters are entrusted to other believers who deliver them across the empire.
But when I became a man, I put away childish things.
By this time, Rome has built 250,000 miles of roads, enough to circle the earth 10 times. Shipping lanes connect 250 major ports. This is how Paul spreads the word.
So faith, hope, and love abide. These three, but the greatest of these is love.
The story of early Christianity really speaks to the power of ideas. That is what creates history. That's what changes people. That's what makes civilization. It's ideas. It always starts with ideas.
A 150 years later, on the outskirts of Carthage, one of the largest ports in the Roman Empire, a group of Christians meet in secret. Private houses double up as churches.
Early Christianity was a religious movement for the extremely poor, for the slaves, and for many women. Basically, anyone who didn't have a voice in Roman society could find a voice in the Christian movement.
Across the empire, 8 million people are slaves, with no rights in Roman law. 30 million are women who can't vote or hold public office. Among them, Perpetua, 22 years old, a new mother, and a subversive. A year earlier, an imperial decree made conversion to Christianity illegal. Converts like Perpetua are now enemies of the state. Their crime, refusing to honor the Roman gods.
You had to be a little bit crazy to be a Christian. It was enough to get you killed. Because you were saying your allegiance was to Christ and to his Father, and not to the emperor.
You would have been always looking over your shoulder, like, you know, is someone following me, or does someone know I'm a Christian? You would have been paranoid, and you would have been kind of afraid to really talk to anyone openly.
The empire's secret police, the Frumentari, they use a network of informers to hunt down dissidents. Perpetua is charged with treason. She's sent to prison to await her fate. She keeps a diary, the earliest words that still survive, written by a Christian woman.
I am not to fight with beasts, but against the devil. And I know that victory is waiting for me.
The ultimate test for any believer: to die for your faith. Christian dissident Perpetua faces a horrible death in the arena at Carthage. Christians are thrown to wild animals, or covered in tar and burned alive, or beheaded. But Perpetua can still save herself if she makes an offering to the Roman gods.
The Romans come to these people and they say, look, you're stirring up trouble for us. Make some public declaration that says you're not against the state. Admit that the emperor is a god, and that'll show that you're okay.
Perpetua's family visits her in prison. She's allowed to nurse her baby. Her father pleads with her to back down and accept the Roman rules.
Daughter, he said, have pity on me. Do not abandon me. Have pity on your baby. Give up your pride. I tried to comfort him, saying, it will happen as God wills.
A real Christian can't denounce their religion. They can't do it in public, they can't do it in private, they can't do it in their heart, they can't do it at all because they will burn in hell forever. That's the belief.
Imagine how profoundly courageous one had to be. To put your life on the line and say, yes, I am a follower of Jesus Christ. The courage to do that, that simple act, speaks volumes about the power of faith.
According to her diary, Perpetua goes willingly to her death. Her courage inspires one of the prison guards, a man called Pudens, to convert. Thousands of Christians are executed. They become known as martyrs. But the more Christians the Romans kill, the more popular the religion becomes. In 100 years, the number of followers grows from 200,000 to 6 million. 1 in 10 people in the empire is Christian. From North Africa to Britain, the religion becomes so common, all laws against it are lifted. And then, a watershed moment. The year is 337. The Emperor Constantine is dying. He makes a decision that will shape the future of the Roman Empire.
The time's arrived I have long hoped for. with an earnest desire and prayer that I might obtain the salvation of God.
The most powerful man in the Western world is baptized.
For hundreds of years, Christianity was being quelled and put down by the Roman Empire, even persecuted. Now it's okay to be a Christian.
Once Constantine is baptized, the whole empire then shifts towards Christianity. And then anybody who wants a stake in it, politically and economically, needs to be a Christian as well.
A new Christian capital rises in the east of the empire. Constantinople, today Istanbul. At its heart, a church larger than any temple in Rome. Hagia Sophia, the Church of the Holy Wisdom. Today, there are 2.2 billion Christians, nearly a third of the world's population.
His followers have changed every part, every portion, and every corner of the earth. And that has to be understood of the power of this one person over 2,000 years ago.
One man's death in the Middle East inspires a message that spreads around the world. A world connected like never before. Christianity, the lasting legacy of the Roman Empire. But when empires fall, we remake our world. We innovate and explore new ideas, new opportunities, but also new conflicts. A clash of civilizations.